Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is Out of Bounds. It is me, Joey P. Joe P. Zapia, with my one best friend, the Welsh, because Scott Bogman has the flu. Really, he's just sick of seeing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure. He just didn't want to talk about it now, but shout out to Scott Bogman. He is under the weather today, but the Welsh and I are here on our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. If you want to hang out with us on Out of Bounds, this is the place to do it. You can ask your questions. You can talk football with us, have a little football, a little fun. We're going to recap what happened in the championship games on Sunday. A lot of good, some bad, some disappointing. Depends on your outlook on things. And we're also going to grade. That's right. It's report card time. We're going to grade the organizations and the new head coaching hires. I don't know who's a tougher grade, Welsh or myself, so you'll have to see what goes on there. And, last week we did a segment that got cut from the show because it was too out of bounds for Out of Bounds. And I'm telling you right now, we're bringing it back. I'm going to try to not be so controversial with it. Florida man, it was real news. I wanted to talk about it. You have to go, I guess, behind the paywall for that kind of content, Welsh. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, you had to be here for the Discord. If you were in the Discord, right. You heard the thing. You heard it was a whole segment. It led into the end. And I had a punchline that I didn't throw in because I was like, I don't know about this. And then, so to say, we had our first out of bound controversy and it wasn't me, by the way. It's amazing. It was Joe.
It was
Joe
me.
got a full segment cut. So what I'd be curious about, I actually didn't go back and watch. This is from 2 weeks ago because we didn't have a show last week. If you go back and watch, see if you can find where it was cut. If you can find the cut in a whole segment being thrown out and then the end of the show, us attempting to do. But yes, only the Fantasy Pros Discord heard Joe really try to, I don't know, get the show canceled.
Dude, I'm just bringing the news. That's all I'm doing. I'm bringing the funny news of crazy things. I want to do a Florida man segment. I hope it doesn't get cut today. You got to stick around to the end of the show.
You were a little Ron Burgundy there. You were just reading the news and not thinking about the consequences.
I thought about it quite a bit, but whatever. All right, let's get to the championship games, and let's start here with the NFC. The final score, a little misleading if you just didn't watch the entire game, 55-23. This game was close in the first half. Washington went down and scored again. You felt like, okay, this is a competitive team. It felt, from that first big play from Saquon Barkley, the big run. That was the one thing I said on TV on Sunday. I said, look, you want to make sure you limit those big plays from Saquon. You're going to give up yards. The Commanders were the third worst team in the league against the run. You knew they were going to give up 100 yards to Saquon. It was, are you going to give up the big back-breaking play? And they did on the first play of the game for them. That was just like, oh, but they didn't fold up the tents. However, turnovers in the second half, obviously, you can't go that route. Saquon, Jalen Hurts made plays. Hurts rushed for 3 touchdowns in there. And, of course, the tush pushing was happening there. And Freddie Louvu, I mean, God bless him. Well, I don't know about you. I've never heard in my whole life. Basically, it was like when the parent, you have kids, when the parent says, if you keep that up, I'm turning this car around.
I did this last night with my kids. I'm like, listen, we're getting a touchdown automatically scored against you guys if you guys don't get to bed and calm down. 100%
automatic 6. Did you know that was a rule? I didn't know that was a rule. I'll be honest. I've never heard that.
I learned multiple rules this year. Remember the whole what was it? Special kick that hadn't happened in 30 years. I didn't know that whole deal that happened. I had never heard of this because guess what? I've done this 300 times in Madden. Playing Madden throughout my years, I've 100% been so pissed off that I just kept going off sides and getting multiple penalties. I've never had the video game give the other person points. So I did not know this rule exists, but I've done it being very pissy. I laughed out loud with my teeth out like an idiot crying when Louvu did the second one. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, him going over. And then the guy, it wasn't even Louvu, it was the third guy who just went over and they're just like, we're done with this. We're going to give them points if you guys don't stop. It was laugh out loud funny what Louvu was doing.
I thought he was trying to basically Canadian destroyer Jalen Hurts. Like he was trying to get over the top of him, sunset flip funny. Around like that. It was very WWE-esque. And I'm here for it. He was so entertaining in last week too against the Lions. So obviously Barkley, the 60-yard touchdown was huge. 118, 3 scores. The points got out of control at the end. The 55 points, by the way, the most any team has scored in a conference championship game since 1970, the merger. Wow. Look, Hurts was wearing the knee brace. He threw for 246. It was the best game we've seen out of Jalen Hurts, I think, in many weeks. And a terrific performance by the Eagles defense too. Jalen Carter is an absolute beast. The corners played well. McLaurin, they limited him, right? He had the touchdown, but outside of that, McLaurin really, especially in the second half, didn't really make an impact in that game. And the Commanders, look, they weren't supposed to be there. They got to the NFC Championship game. It's an incredible journey for them. Now, you don't want to have what happened to the Texans, where they were kind of lackluster in that sophomore year with expectations. I don't feel that's going to come at all for the Commanders, but I do want to talk about the post-hype here now of the Commanders. Obviously, they could use another wide receiver somewhere. Zacchaeus and De'Ami Brown. I just don't know if those guys are the answer, right? If you want to give Brandon Ayuk, is that what you want to do?
He wanted to go there anyways. Let's send him.
Well, look, if Ayuk wants to go there, fine. They could use some help up against the run too, either a linebacker or defensive tackle. I think those are the needs when you're looking at the Commanders. Would you agree? If you could address those needs in the draft or in free agency, there's no reason why the Commanders can't challenge for this division, be a playoff team again, and there's no reason why Jaden Daniels can't be a potential MVP candidate next year.
Yeah, I would say we can focus on some of the offensive stuff. I think it's all defense. That they could not stop. That you need defensive line. You need somebody. Barkley was running through. I have never. I mean, I know we're talking about the Commanders here. I wanted to mention. I don't think I've ever seen 7 rushing touchdowns in a game. 3 by Hurts, 3 by Barkley, 1 by Shipley. I don't think I've ever seen that, let alone in a playoff game. It was crazy. But that's what we're talking about here. They have to focus on defense because Jaden Daniels made the best out of what on paper you would look as a very subpar crew. Zach Ertz has got to be living again and do this. Eckler and Robinson are fine. You've only got really one wide receiver. He may do by being one of the highest completion quarterbacks. It was 20 plus completions for 8 straight weeks. He moves around in the pocket. Offensive line did okay, but it was the defense. They could stop nothing. The Eagles had their absolute way with them. And beginning of the year, if you remember, the Commanders were one of the absolute worst secondaries, giving up all the touchdowns. Then it turned into the rushing side. Done. They were just giving up everything rushing. So this team should probably take 4 of its top 6 draft picks, if they even have that many, and it should be defense. It should be defensive line. It should be multiple secondary pieces. And then if they can get an offensive piece or 2, great. That's awesome. If you can go get an Ayuk or whoever the hell is available in free agency, 1 wide receiver would probably feel good, but defense is clearly what they've got to do because they could not hold any cards with the Eagles in that game. And that was unfortunate. I really thought that Jaden Daniels could keep them in it, but their defense, they just got obliterated in the run game.
The heartwarming coming together before the game, I don't know if you saw this, in the tailgate, you had the Commanders fans and the Eagles fans in the parking lot together, communing in a Cowboy sucks chant, which I thought was great. That was terrific. Came together. It was a nice moment. I really enjoyed that. Also, after the game, too, I don't know if you saw Broad Street in Philadelphia, former home of my illustrious alma mater, lived in Philadelphia for 6 years, packed for miles with people. It was unbelievable. They were shooting fireworks, people climbing the light poles on there, and one guy climbed the light pole with the A.J. Brown book, and they were up there reading the book. I mean, Philadelphia is special. It's a special.
They're definitely a special breed. No, I saw that, but nothing brings football fans together more than hating on the Cowboys. I have a question for you, though. If it was Cowboys and Chiefs in the Super Bowl, what would people do?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean,
what would you do?
They watch it and then they're just angry. They're just angry the whole time. They're just.
Well, who'd you go for? Because everyone's sick of the Chiefs.
Oh, I'm not sick of the Chiefs.
But
See,
the Cowboys.
Here's the thing: as a Patriots fan, my perspective is totally different. My daughter is starting to learn this now because she's a Chiefs fan since she started watching football about 5 years ago. She became a Chiefs fan. She liked Mahomes, and she just happened to catch them at the right time, right? And then, of course, as a Swiftie, all the other stuff piled on. It just intensified everything. And she plays football, but I'm in awe of the Chiefs. I know, and we're gonna get to that game in a second. I know people want to complain about the referees, and I get it. The calls go their way, but the plays go their way too. They make plays. They make their own luck sometimes. You just gotta outplay. I tell this to my 12U football teams that I coach and flag. I was like, you gotta play better than the refs call. And it's funny because we were actually playing the Chiefs, and they got a bunch of calls on Sunday, right? Our Rams team. And at one point, the kids in the huddle said to me, he goes, this is like playing the real Chiefs. And I laughed so hard. And you know what? We came from behind. We won the football game. But it was true. The Chiefs were getting all the calls. I don't know what it is. Maybe
so you would go for the Chiefs then? You would go for the Chiefs?
I would go for the Chiefs. I like history. I like legacies. I think it's good for the NFL to have these big, legendary, larger-than-life franchises where you have the Steelers of the 70s, and then the 80s you had the 49ers, and then obviously in the 90s and the 2000s you have, well, I mean, Cowboys was like a mini
early
one.
90s was Cowboys, and then it kind of moved to Rams, and then the Patriots owned the 2000s.
Well, the Patriots owned the 2000s. I mean, when you get their playoffs for 20 straight years, that's it. Pretty much. Just saying.
I was just going to say, here's the positive, though. We'll never have to worry about Cowboys and Chiefs anytime in the near future. No one will have to even deal with that speculative game because it ain't happening.
No, we're not going to have to worry about that. All right, let's get to the other game. Before we do, it ain't the little itty bitty teeny tiny bowl. It's the Super Bowl. And yes, I have to read it that way. Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook. No itty bitty stuff around here, folks. An official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59 is DraftKings. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting that Lombardi trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code FantasyPros. That's promo code FantasyPros for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, let's get to the Chiefs and Bills, 32-29. It's funny, there was a time in this game too, on that, not the final drive of the Chiefs, but the one before it, where they went and they kicked the field goal, where I was very mad at Xavier Worthy because he didn't go out of bounds. And I kept thinking, that's going to cost you. He had that good catch, right? Remember, he went out of bounds. And I'm thinking, ooh, you're giving Josh Allen way too much time, and he's got 2 timeouts left. You have to make the Bills either burn a timeout or burn some clock. I was really surprised that nobody brought that up on the broadcast at the time either. I thought that was a really pivotal moment that I was worried and concerned about. And of course, they kicked the field goal. Josh Allen has the ability. And here's the funny thing. I don't know about you, Welsh. I'm watching that game in that moment on the 4th and 5. And I'm thinking, all right, well, he's going to bring that corner blitz just like he did against the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, right? When it comes to the end, Spagnuolo is going to bring everything at you, and he's going to do something you haven't seen. It's probably going to be that corner blitz. What does he do? He brings that exact same corner blitz. So if I remember it, I don't know how the coaching staff of the Bills isn't prepared for it. Josh Allen, to his credit, somehow gets the ball in the air. Dalton Kincaid somehow gets close enough to it, doesn't come up with it. I don't think people should be killing Dalton Kincaid. It was not an easy catch. Had he caught it, though, I think we are looking at the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. I think that is a moment that just swings the whole momentum of that game in a whole different place. And maybe, just maybe, it is Buffalo. What did you think about that sequence of events there with the 4th and 5? And also some of the play calling, too, which was basically, let's just run Josh Allen in the tush push to the left every single time. Like, can we run it to the right? Can we try something different there?
Yeah, I thought there was some, maybe like what you're alluding to, like some stagnant play calling on the Bills, because to your point, they did it on the broadcast a whole bunch where they were like, they waited until the last play of the game to do something different. The whole game, they like defensively, they had been setting this up. And that's like kind of true that they did that. But in the same token, and what you're saying is like, I would have hoped that the Bills would have been more prepared that the possibility of a blitz could come in this scenario to have a quick throw. And they weren't prepared to make a quick throw. They didn't have anybody. Well, Here's the other sickening thing. They did have somebody under, and they had Khalil Shakir that came back into the backfield and then rolled out to the left and was wide open. He had a wide receiver, another wide receiver was there to block the corner. And now he had to throw across his body. Had he been prepared to make that throw, which I kind of thought, why do you do Shakir back there unless you are prepared to have some short yardage throw? He didn't do it, and he throws this long dart out there. It just did feel like they were not prepared for something like that, even though they had the play call, and there was some stagnance in the play calling in general. But like the Worthy thing, they still had the opportunity to do it. They couldn't do it. It's unfortunate. It was a great freaking game across the board, but the Bills showed their hand that they were just a notch below the Chiefs. Play call, be damned with what everyone freaks out about. Like the Chiefs won it. That's
the Chiefs absolutely won it. Period. End of story. You don't like it. You want to complain about, well, Josh Allen on the first down. You know what? You got a big body quarterback in Josh Allen. Let's go forward to the, let's go right over the center. And let's try to do something different. Let's not be doing the same stuff over and over again. Let's also be prepared. I just don't understand.
Everyone says get rid of the tush push, but no one else does the tush push.
Well, I was going to say nobody does it quite as good as the Eagles do.
I know.
And I don't understand why you don't the history of Steve Spagnuolo, when he go back to the Giants, right? Against Tom Brady those years, the Super Bowl, what does he do in those the bigger the spot, the more the pressure. And you know it's coming. You've got to be prepared. You need somebody else in there to help pick up somebody off the edge. You need somebody out there to help block for Josh Allen. Or like you said, you need to be aware, like, I got to get rid of this football really quick. And it's going to have to be a 4th and 5 where we're not going deep here. We're trying to catch and run and get there. And you could sense it coming. I knew they weren't prepared for it. I thought, like you said, when I saw Shakir, I was like, okay, maybe they have something. And as soon as I saw Josh Allen's reaction, I knew that they were not prepared for it.
It is very armchair quarterbacky, and I completely acknowledge that. But when I look at that and you go, why did you move Shakir and put him in motion? To see if they're in a zone or a man. Okay, looks like they're in a zone. Then when you see the blitz, they're in a blitz zone and you have Shakir rolling around the corner. Why would you not throw that off there when you know there was only one corner on the left side? So like that, I mean, and it's like this is why I'm saying it's armchair quarterbacky. There's like a second for him to think of that. But like we have we have the ability to go back and look and be like, dude, why didn't you throw across your body with Shakir? But it's like, why did you also make all of that motion to figure out what your defense had? And then they had that. It's something, unfortunately, hate to say it, Mahomes probably makes that play. Josh Allen
Mahomes played great.
Yeah, he did play good.
I mean, those runs that he had in those big spots, Worthy did play great, and you were on Worthy. If you watch Betting Pros, you nailed the ladder bet for him. You nailed all kinds of stuff there. And Mahomes, took the ball in his hands in the big spots. And it was something that I was talking about, too, in the DFS market on Sunday. I was like, look, Mahomes is the cheapest quarterback. If you think he's not going to run this game, you're crazy. The stats for him coming into that game, too, against the Buffalo Bills were absurd. I don't know if you were aware of them or had seen them. The games against the Buffalo Bills before yesterday, I haven't added in these other stats, but I have the OG stats leading up to yesterday. 3 games against the Bills in the playoffs, 79 for 105. That's a 75% completion percentage, 918 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, no picks, a 126.6 passer rating, and 93 rushing yards with a rushing touchdown. And those numbers got better yesterday. I want to talk to Father Man, who's on our Discord right now. Father Man, you got any takes on the games there that you wanted to share with the ether and everybody listening on Out of Bounds?
Hey, the only thing I got to say is I thought about that ladder bet when the game was going on. I was like, I knew that sucker was going to hit it.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. I had a couple. I had a couple rough weeks prior to that, but I swept the Chiefs game with my bets. The Chiefs-Bills game. The only 2 I missed were in that Eagles game, but that felt good. Over 500 with the ladder bet. And when he caught that big pass, and then they did the review, and they're like, did it touch the ground? I'm like, no, please no, please no. And we might have got a little bit luck on our side, Father Man, but ladder bet going.
I think I hit that one. Then I hit both games. I hit the over on both of them, and I hit the money line. I knew it's going to be the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, so I bet the money line, smart money. So
there you go.
Father Man got the script.
Bet. Sometimes the chalk is the right way to go. Father Man, we're glad you made some money on the games there, man.
Joey, I was going to say real quick, you were saying, had I heard those stats, I hadn't heard those Mahomes stats, because the only stat I heard all week was Travis Kelce goes over 70 yards receiving in playoff games for 14 straight games, and then absolutely shut out on that. If you did bet it, the books knew it too, by the way, between 69 and 71. They wanted you to take that. They wanted you to do it. Didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't, unfortunately. It's the 4th time, by the way, since 2021 that the Chiefs have ended the Bills season in the playoffs. Kareem Hunt had a touchdown. He was, Kareem Hunt, pretty good in these games. I got to say, like, he is grinding them out. Worthy 6 for 85. He had the touchdown there. Did you think he came down with that ball? Because I know that was the other big controversial moment there. I also did know the rule. That rule I did know that, tie goes to the runner. Well, if 2 guys come down with the ball, the offensive player gets the ball. That's actually we all knew that from one. That was from the late 80s, I think, where they changed that. Because that wasn't always the case back in the day.
So that one's because it wasn't about the tie goes to the runner. It was about, like, did he have the possession before? Because the ball can touch the ground, I believe, if possession is maintained prior. It didn't quite look like he had, because they were fighting for the ball, it didn't seem like he had 100% possession. So, like, from a betting standpoint, I was like, please don't take this away from me. This is going to be my luck lately. Thank God they didn't.
You were like Ricky Bobby at the dinner table.
If we're looking at reality, because they were both still vying to actually maintain possession and no possession for one player seemed like it was locked, I wouldn't have been like, cry foul if they said it was incomplete. But, he had like a hand in there, so I see why they do it. I'm just, my pocketbook's happy.
I'm going to say this to everybody too. Those people who are fed up with the referees and the Chiefs, the refs do give Chiefs calls on the field. And what makes it then difficult is when they review them, there's never enough sometimes to overturn what the call was on the field. So if the call on the field is going the way of the Chiefs, when you go to that review and it's on the bubble, they're just going to stick with whatever the call is on the field. That I buy into, and that I can give folks who are trying to yell and scream at the clouds about this stuff. Here's another one. Dating back to 1972, NFL teams have scored 4 touchdowns and committed 0 turnovers in a playoff game are 85-6. The Bills in the last 2 playoff games at Arrowhead are 2 of those 6 teams. That is an incredible stat there.
Wow.
Just want to say that. I mean, unbelievable. And the Bills had a great season. Josh Allen, arguably his best season. And now we're looking forward to the Buffalo Bills. So the one problem I had with the Bills was the defense. I kept talking about it all the time. I said, look, this defense in big spots, they're going to give up yardage. Mahomes in the fourth quarter was moving down the field at will. And that was my biggest fear. This is not the Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer days of that secondary. That's long gone. That's in the past. The Bills are another team, I think, Welsh, this offseason. It's got to be about defense for them, and it's got to be about the secondary to a certain degree. Would you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, defense let down the 2 losing teams in the championship round probably to the highest degree. Are there offensive questions with the Bills? Not really. There's a little bit in the wide receiver core, like, you know, Keon Coleman could not get going. Amari Cooper, we just thought like, oh my gosh, this is going to be an amazing signing. That never really happened. It was just Khalil Shakir, but their running game is so dominant. But again, like if just like the Commanders, I wouldn't go and say, well, they need to go get one great receiver on the outside. Keon Coleman was a definite big play receiver that I think can take a next big step the following season. Their run game was so elite that, yeah, it's like defense. They should probably spend big in free agency, maybe the best secondary player they can, and then they should probably go some defensive line and pass rushers in the draft for sure. And guess what? We got a draft show that is back on FantasyPros, so make sure you guys are locked on the podcast. D-Bro is back with the draft show talking about a lot of the offensive players, but you got Bogman that's around, and they'll be talking about team needs and everything. And we got the draft show back on FantasyPros to cover your offseason just like we do. Even though Bogman isn't here today, we cover you with Out of Bounds.
Yes. The early line for the Super Bowl, you got the Eagles. I'm looking at Betting Pros +2. Kansas City -1.5 is the best number you're getting on them right now. 49.5 is the total. Pretty big number for a Super Bowl too. Just want to say, you don't usually scratch the 50s for Super Bowls. -119 on the money line for the Chiefs, +112 for the Eagles. Any early hot takes on the Super Bowl matchup, or should I say rematch? Because the big difference here is I don't think you're getting as good of a version of Jalen Hurts that you had rocking and rolling a couple years ago when Shane Steichen was the offensive coordinator. But now you have to deal with Saquon Barkley. But on the Chiefs side, the one thing they're really good at is stopping the run. That's one thing they are great up front. So
they just haven't been lately, though.
No, not lately.
They've kind of faltered on that. And then, but also,
they've been more aggressive. That's also because they've been more aggressive in terms of pressure on the quarterback. So when you start to do that, you're going to get guys that are a little tired, and you're going to start to back up a little bit more against the run and the stats.
But you'd want to do that with the Eagles because like Jalen Hurts hasn't really been doing a great job of making quick decisions. He did make a lot quicker decisions. That was the Eagles kind of masking the poorish pass game, was him making quicker decisions. So you would think they would want to blitz on Jalen Hurts as much as possible to put him into those situations where he's making those quick decisions. But it's a weird matchup because it's like at the same time, on the Chiefs side, you have been able to run a little bit more. And if you've been able to run a little bit more, how about Saquon Barkley? Of all players on the planet, Saquon Barkley could eat this team. I'm not, at this moment, I feel like I would want to tease the Eagles up to +8 and then maybe tease down the total a tiny bit and take like a, let's say 45.5 over and +8 and get somewhere around even money or -110. But if I had to just pick a side, how do you go against the Chiefs?
I'm taking the Chiefs until further notice.
How do you go against the Chiefs?
Because I don't know. If you bet against the Chiefs in the last 5 years, you've lost a lot of money.
I know.
I see Stink Mangione in the chat here on Discord. I really hope the Eagles get embarrassed. Worst fans ever. Listen, I lived in Philly. The worst of their worst fans are the worst. But that city, when a team's playing well, it is an unbelievable. There's an energy in that city when it's the Phillies or the Sixers or even the Flyers to a certain degree, but especially the Eagles. When the Eagles are good, it is crazy.
Powered by all the batteries
jerseys
that people are bringing to throw into the stadium if they lose. Energizer
powered by
bunnies.
Yingling and a lot of cheesesteaks. But it is a very communal thing. The community of the Eagles fans there, it's unbelievable. And you saw it on Broad Street last night, man. I mean, as
but
fan bases go,
that's not what Stink is talking about. Yeah, Eagles fans are great to each other. He's saying they're monsters and they're horrible people to everybody else. And you didn't make
Eagles
an argument
fans
for
are
that.
the worst. No, I can't, because I've been in too many situations where the
all right,
worst,
great. They're good friends
the
with
worst,
each other.
and the Philly faithful will tell you, the worst of us are the worst there is, but they give a bad name to everybody else because there's a lot of great Philadelphia sports fans. And when I guarantee you, for the next 2 weeks, you will see a sea of green everywhere. Everybody will be wearing Eagles. And I mean, people going to work. I mean, people at school. It is crazy. It's not like that in other cities sometimes. You know, in New York, you got two different teams. You got these split stuff. It's not like that. Philadelphia, it is all in. You are either all in or you're getting your ass kicked in the parking lot. Pretty much.
The other color will be red from the Eagles fans. Oh, what are you wearing? You're wearing Chiefs. It's not from the Chiefs jersey, by the way. That red's not from the Chiefs jerseys. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the head coaching report cards, because guess what? All the spots got filled. We got a couple predictions right from a few weeks ago. We played a little game here with Bogman and Welsh. So let's grade the coaching hire, get the report cards out, the red marker. Let's go. It's time to go back to school. The Las Vegas Raiders hired a young up-and-comer, Pete Carroll. So we'll see how that goes for them. I like this hire, Welsh, because to me, even though he's got the age, he has got the experience. He knows how to rebuild something, and the Raiders foundation is terrible. Let's be honest. They have been cycling through coaches for a decade. It needs to stop. Pete Carroll, if he can have a 3-year window where he just rebuilds the foundation, I think that's all this is about. I don't think there's expectations, because every team in that division is going to be way better than the Raiders for the next 3 to 5 years. This is about rebuilding an organization. And I think it makes sense, and will make more sense depending on who he brings in underneath him to be a successor, to pass the reins for continuity. So you're not getting a firing. At one point, maybe you get Pete Carroll just stepping away, moving into the front office as like an executive kind of role, and keeping the continuity of something in Las Vegas with the Raiders, because that is what's killing them. I gave this I gave it a B. What did you give it?
Give it a B-. That's interesting how you phrased a lot of that, because I think you actually might be right. I think on the surface, I just don't love it. Like, I don't love a guy that's like 97 years old going in and trying to relate. I mean, if there is a coach that isn't a former player that can relate with players, Pete Carroll is probably near the top. I mean, like obviously any player that's played in the last like 10 or 15 years, there's like a relatability factor. So Pete Carroll has that, but you were out of the game. I don't even say wash like towards the end or anything like that. Like, Pete Carroll's like a great coach. I guess just from a needing to rebrand this, you got Tom Brady kind of in ownership and probably obviously having his hands on a little bit more. I just don't know if Pete Carroll feels like the right fit, but you make a really compelling case of like, if you see it in a short window, you need to rebrand from a full organizational standpoint of like the staffing and maybe just kind of the mentality and the personnel. Like, maybe that is a little bit better, but I guess it's
terrible. There is no culture.
Culture's a good way to put it. I guess I just would have liked, like, if you have Tom Brady overseeing a lot of the management, you'd love to see like a high-end, younger offensive coach that maybe you could build with this team for 10 or 15 years. Having like a short stance guy, there's a very visible time clock that is on how long Pete Carroll can be with this team. And then you have to pass the reins over. So I guess it's going to be probably built around more like, who are the coordinators that they bring in that would be the successor. So this has become Succession a little bit. And I don't love that in general, even though I love that show.
God,
so I gave it a
Brian
B-.
Cox on that show. You know how hard it is for
phenomenal.
me not to quote Brian Cox right now, because I don't want more stuff to get cut from the show. God, I love that. And apparently wherever he goes, people ask him to say it to their face or record him saying it. So good. The Dallas Cowboys, I'm sorry, Father, man, I know you're a Cowboys fan. They hired Brian Schottenheimer. I guess they just want to keep the continuity of the offense. And another yes man, this feels like Jason Garrett 2.0, does it not? I was tough on this one. I gave it a D+, but Welsh, you gave it an even worse grade. The only reason I didn't fail it is because I said, well, you have the continuity at least. You know the personnel, you know the offense. Things aren't going to change that much. Maybe they should change. I don't know. But you were even harsher. What did you give this Brian Schottenheimer hire?
I gave it an F. sucks. It's stupid. Everything you just said is the problem. Like, why would you want the things to stay the same? You just want to keep doing this? Like, I wanted Dion there. Dion might have also been like just a huge disaster, but you know what? Change something up. Blow this thing up. Switch out the mentality of it. I mean, maybe see, here's the problem. It's like, I was about to say maybe Dion would have been more of just a yes man to Jerry Jones, but you're telling me Schottenheimer's not the ultimate yes man to Jerry. Whatever you want. Like, I just think it's a lateral, if not like negatively lateral. You just swoop down another level lower. Like, this doesn't change anything. Why not just keep McCarthy there if you're going to put Schottenheimer there? So I don't love it. I think it's bad hiring. Maybe I'm being too critical because of, Cowboys, but I don't know. I would have liked a whole new change, a not Pete Carroll change, but a younger change. And I guess I just was really sold on that Dion standpoint of it.
This is one of the 3 that I got right from our coaching predictions. Aaron Glenn was the first one. I give it a B+. I think it's perfect. I didn't give any new coaches A's. To me, you don't get when you're just a coordinator, you're still an unknown. So I can't grade anything an A personally. That's just my scale of grading things. But Aaron Glenn was about as close as you can get. He was a leader on the Jets when he was a player. He's exactly the kind of personality they need. I heard he's going to go talk to Aaron Rodgers, and I'm sure what he's going to say is, hey, wouldn't you love to go to Cancun and just retire? And I think Aaron Glenn is going to take this organization, and this is a team that could turn around very quickly. You get some sort of capable quarterback play, you run the hell out of the football, you change the culture in this locker room. Aaron Glenn's capable of leading these men, getting that defense back on track. I love this hire, getting rid of Hackett, all this stuff, just cleaning it up. Love this one. B+, would you give it?
Yeah, and just for like reference, you don't give a first time head coach an A.
New head coaches never. Yeah, I gave one A, but I can't give an organization an A for hiring a guy who's never coached the NFL because the success rate is bad. So it's just one of those things. If you're grading on the scale, I think it's everybody thought that this coordinator, that coordinator, they're going to be so great, and so often they fail. Being a head coach is very different than being a coordinator. It's about creating culture. It's about the overall picture of things. And historically speaking, coaches who have success get fired and then get another shot somewhere else. If you go back and look at Belichick, if you go back and look at Andy Reid, if you go back and look at so many of these coaches, Pete Carroll, right? Like, it's the second time around, Dan Quinn, right? The second time around, good football guys getting a shot at being a head coach typically goes very well the second time. So we'll get to that guy in a second. But Aaron Glenn, you actually gave, I believe, an A-. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. I love the hiring of it. I love the new blood. Obviously, this is going to be a coach that is going to be very relatable in playing in the NFL and the not so distant past. I love the defensive mindedness of it. The A is probably also contingent on like what the coordinator is. I tend to love like player-ish young new face coaches on the defensive side if they can bring in like a really good new offensive coordinator. Sometimes, I mean, like Mike McDaniel is an example of like, there's an offensive coordinator that goes into his team, kind of has the reins controlled of himself, and everything kind of, fell apart a little bit. I mean, definitely when you look at them at this point, but I love Glenn and what he did with the Jets. With the Lions. I love this situation and what they're going to be able to build with this Jets defense. I hope you're going to have some kind of innovative. I'm not even sure if I want like a veteran OC to take over this gig, even having just some like new young innovativeness with Breece Hall and the pieces that they've gotten, Garrett Wilson. But I love it. I think Aaron Glenn is a prime one of the top 2 head coaches that you could have got in this class. So I give it an A-.
All right, next one's an A. It's Mike Vrabel. And it's not because he's the Patriots hire. It's because anybody that hired Vrabel is going to get an A from me, because I think Mike Vrabel is a hell of a football coach. He has been around the game in big time organizations. He has shown you he's a winner on the field. He took some mediocre Tennessee Titans teams to the playoffs, which is no small feat. And you saw what happened when he left there. Everything just fell apart. And he was able to really, those last couple of years, just piece it together. I mean, it was pretty ugly there, and he found ways to have some winning seasons. And look, he's a guy that understands the Patriot way and rebuilding it back. He's got the quarterback, you got the coach, you got cap space. This is a great situation. I think Elliot Wolf is going to acquiesce too. He's going to have to go with what Vrabel wants in the draft. So don't be shocked if it's an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Maybe it's an offensive tackle to start. We'll see. But it's going to look like a Vrabel team very quickly. And I think that's a good thing, because that's typically what the Patriot way is all about. What did you give the Mike Vrabel hire?
Yeah, I give it an A. I think leader of men. And didn't they bring Josh McDaniel back too? So
yeah,
he's
Josh McDaniel's back too.
So it's just like, this is like old
Do you
Belichick
find yourself
ways.
doing that where you always forget to say McDaniel or McDaniels because there's Mike McDaniel, then there's McDaniels, and you got to like, you're always going back and forth. I find sometimes I forget where to put the S.
Yeah, well, I'm dumb, so like my brain doesn't process. There are too many things happening at one time, so S's are gonna be out.
And it's not just us. I see it on broadcasts on the NFL Network where people screw it up all the time.
Listen, you said championship earlier, and I heard something else, and I'm like, oh boy. So like my brain is going a mile a minute, so I can sometimes hear some different stuff. But yeah, I think the grouping, it's just like quintessential perfect Patriots coach. Mike Vrabel is very, very well revered. McDaniels, he's the familiarity with this, having Drake May as as your brushstroke in the art of what they'll make with the new Patriots offense. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic hiring, and this is a guy with experience, so I like it.
Liam Cohn said, I'll come to Jacksonville as long as Trent Baalke's gone. And Trent Baalke's gone, so Liam Cohn got his way. I want to give him a higher grade just for that because I think he deserves it, but I'm just going to give him a C+. Now you can argue that Cohen's offense was better with Baker Mayfield than it was the year before under Dave Canellis, but I am very much wait and see with this one here. What did you give the Liam Cohen hiring for the Jaguars?
I gave it better than you. I gave it a B, even though he backtracked on his team on the contract and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think Jacksonville in general feels a little messy. But if you start to look at the pieces that he's going to get to work with, Lawrence is his Mayfield. Brian Thomas is going to be his Mike Evans. Maybe Etienne becomes his Bucky Irving. You don't know how this is going to piece together. There's some good offensive pieces in here for a high offensive mind. Maybe this could justifiably be a little bit higher. The physical hiring itself seems good, just shrouded in just some messiness with like going back to the Bucks and then not just very, then they with the GM. Just it feels very messy with the Jags in general. So maybe this deserves to be a little bit higher, but I give it a B.
Some people in the chat here are thinking that maybe Tank is just going to be the guy. Maybe Etienne will be moved on from. I see it in the Discord.
and they might go.
That could be.
You might end up having Tank be the Bucky Irving, and then they might bring in just like a young pass catcher to play. I mean, you can kind of interchangeably look at it. Like I think he'll run like a 2-back system, and then maybe the young guy that they come in, if it's like an all downs back and a pass catcher, that might even work better than Tank Bigsby. I guess what I'm getting at is like we saw them thrive, and we saw running backs thrive in an offense that he ran. We saw the number one receiver thrive. It's really going to be about Trevor Lawrence. So whatever the pieces end up being, like I will probably, if it is only Tank, by the way, I'll be even higher on Tank if he's like the sole guy there.
All right, Chicago Bears, last one. I predicted this one right too, Ben Johnson. I like confidence, but arrogance, especially when you're a bottom feeder team with a Bears team that has struggled for many, many years now. I think the Bears structurally are a quick turnaround. Defense is pretty good. You've got some talent on offense. You have a young quarterback, right? You have all the pieces there. The press conference came off very arrogant to me. I don't care what kind of relationship he's got with people and all that stuff. You're looking up at the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions in your own division. I understand wanting to rah whenever, fire everybody up, but Ben Johnson, I think his mouth is going to write some checks that unfortunately the coaching can't cash. I gave it a B because he's a great offensive mind, and I think he's the right guy. And fantasy league people should be excited because Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, I imagine if there's anybody that can, help another first round overall pick, right? Look what he did with Jared Goff. Got the best out of Jared Goff the last few years. Can he do it with Caleb Williams? I think the answer is yes. I just don't know if he's head coach material quite yet, but we'll see. I know everybody loves the offense. I gave this one a B, but you were more optimistic. You gave it an A. Why?
Well, this is like the number one guy in the coaching market that was out there. This is a high-end offensive mind. What was the biggest piece that was destroying the Bears this past year? It was Caleb Williams and his inability to trust being able to go deep downfield. He's going to rectify that. Now, I would have killed for him to be on the Raiders with Tom Brady just killing Ben Johnson about having that lateral pass, the Jamison Williams throw an interception, and Tom Brady couldn't get over it. And we all kind of internally, as we listened to that, we're like, oh man, let's put those two in a room together now. But I think this is a great spot. You got great wide receivers. You got a big core. This is an offense that he's going to be able to properly build around and do good things with. Will he end up being like a phenomenal coach? Like that's to be seen. Like they're going to have to really keep piecing that defense together. But there were some great signs of the defense earlier on. And it seemed like the biggest thing holding this team back was Caleb Williams' inability to either be trusted to throw the ball deep or trust in the play calling that we were doing that had him not feeling comfortable about his throw. I think Ben Johnson's going to be able to rectify a lot of that with Caleb, and Caleb is going to be put in a really good spot. So I think this is a phenomenal hire for them. But, again, I think all of these kind of lack a little bit of the flash that we're used to. And Pete Carroll's the biggest name that we carry. We're kind of lacking some of that big flash of oh man, it's this big, college head coach that's coming over.
Carroll
They're all
and
solid.
Vrabel. You don't get the college coaches anymore. They don't leave.
No, I know.
There's too much money.
That's what
and
I'm
security.
saying. It's just it's a bunch of coordinators.
I mean, why would you? I mean, I can make millions of dollars a year and stay around for 6-7 years in a program and run everything exactly how I want it.
And now I can openly pay these players. And
right now I can openly pay
anymore.
them. That's right. Yeah. I don't have to give them cars. You put the keys in an envelope and slide under the dorm room door. You don't have to do that anymore. All right. Last week I was thwarted. This week we're going to try again. It's time for a new segment we like to call Florida Man. That's right. Every day there's something wacky that happens in the state of Florida, and I want to talk about it. This one today, it happened to an attorney. A Florida attorney was arrested after allegedly hitting a man with a plate at a wedding buffet. So they were all invited to the same wedding, first of all. So it wasn't like an open buffet. It wasn't like the OCB, right? It was actually, they were all invited to the same place.
We're going to be in Vegas with buffets. We better be careful and listen to this deeply. We got all the Vegas buffets coming in.
That's part of why I want to talk about this
okay,
because
good.
I know the Vegas. Well, there you go. So Mark Rower allegedly attacked the victim due to the man's daughter cutting in front of line at the steak carving station. Now, I understand some people take their steak very seriously. This happened on January 18th. He denies the allegations, but apparently there was a cutting that happened, an argument ensued, and somebody hit somebody with a plate. That being said, from the two remaining teams, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, who would you most like to go up to the buffet with so that you don't have an incident like this happen at the carving station? I say Jalen Carter. That's my guy. I think I show up to the buffet, me and my boy Jalen Carter. Nobody's messing with us. The C's part, the lines move away. We get first serve on everything. We get the right cut that we want at the carving stations. We get the extra toppings at the sundae station. We get it all. Whatever we want, from appetizer to dessert. Me and my boy Jalen Carter. Who is your backup at the buffet? And this is important too, because when we go to Vegas, this might come up.
Well, how about give me the referees of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City's hand-picked referees to hold back, and I'll be like, no, that guy's illegal. They'll call a foul. They'll get the cops involved. They're on my side. Give me the Chiefs refs always. I don't need one player. I just need the refs.
It's one piece of chicken per person. What are you doing? You can't go back for a second piece.
Yeah, they'll throw the flags and be like, no, that's too much mac. That's way too much mac.
If you hit the tray and you leave the thing open, they come over. You left the tray open, the food's gonna get cold. They throw.
What are you most looking forward to on the Vegas buffet that we're gonna have? Is there like a singular thing?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, the 2 times I've been to Vegas, I don't remember doing one of the buffets.
We should do buffet reviews when we're there.
Okay. I'm a big breakfast guy, so you want to hit a breakfast buffet with me? It's Vegas. They do everything.
We'll do breakfast. We'll do lunch. We'll do dinner. We'll do multiple of them.
FP is, taking us to nice dinners, I'm pretty sure, because they always do a nice job there.
Buffets.
But the breakfast buffet, I don't know what's going on at the hotel, but I'm telling you right now, breakfast buffet, I'm all in.
Okay, last one. Who is most likely at FantasyPros to hit somebody with a plate at a buffet?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna say Mike Mayer because he has such inner rage. I think Mike Mayer is like somebody would just it would be like a silent burn, and they would go there and they would cut in front of him and they would take the last piece of something he wanted, and he would just lose it. Now, also keep in mind, Mike Mayer also an Eagles fan. Just saying.
See, okay, I think that's the one. I think there's people don't know that we could say that would be fun, but I think Mike Mayer of the public Fantasy Pros people,
the public
that's
persona.
A really, really good one. I can't beat you.
That's when the Eagles fan comes out. That's when
violence
is chosen.
Andrew Erickson, because Erickson, likes to have fun in Vegas. He might get a little too ahead of himself and accidentally hit someone with a plate.
That
so
I'm
I'll
a
go
little
with
worried
Erickson.
about, considering what I saw in Tennessee, in Nashville. I'm a little worried about Vegas with Erickson.
Yeah.
But we'll see, and we'll record it. We promise you. Don't forget, everybody, make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Bros podcast wherever you get your pods, and the YouTube channel as well. Subscribe there. Ring the bell till it goes ding. We got all the draft shows going on right now. The Dynasty content's going on. We got a lot of fun going on. And, of course, Betting Pros. We're going to have all the Super Bowl stuff. So run over to Betting Pros. Hit that YouTube channel as well. And I want your grades. So if you're watching the show today on the YouTube channel, drop your comments. Give me the grades for all the coaches that you thought that they got. You think it was an A? You think it was a B? Am I too tough of a grader? Is Welsh too tough of a grader? Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Let us know. Grade the coaches yourselves. We love to see your comments in the chats below. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for the Welsh. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.